Alright guys, so under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be reviewing a movie this small, this late. But this is one of those very rare instances where it's a movie that's so bad that I can't go without talking about it. Because I just need to talk to somebody about this, even if it's just you guys out there on YouTube. I just need to tell you guys how bad this is, because this is one of those movies that even after watching it, even after weeks of just letting it sit in my mind, I still can't believe what I saw. So the movie I'm talking about is Serenity. It stars Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jason Clarke, Djimon Hounsou, and Diane Lane. And it's a pretty simple story when you get right down to it, or at first glance it is. Matthew McConaughey plays this fisherman who's out on this island trying to catch this huge tuna. It might as well be a tuna the size of the shark from Jaws. But he's soon approached by his ex-wife, played by Anne Hathaway, who is now married to this abusive shithead of a businessman. Like, he's somewhere between a millionaire, mob boss, maybe both. The movie's not really explicit on where his money comes from or what exactly he does. But anyway, this new husband is played by Jason Clarke, and Anne Hathaway has come to Matthew McConaughey to pretty much ask him to kill Jason Clarke, and in return, she will give Matthew McConaughey $10 million. Which I feel like if most people were put in this situation, they'd probably do it for $1 million. But I'm not going to go into that dark realm. So that's the movie. It plays out like a very standard neo-noir film, just with a little modern touch of it being set on an island, not being as dark or as stylistic as a noir film from the 1940s. But I gotta say, when this movie came out, this is one of those situations where it's like The Snowman, where I had no intention of seeing it. I didn't even know that much about the movie. But because of social media, because of all the people on film Twitter, I had to see this movie because everyone was talking about how bad it is, and just one of these things that you gotta see it to believe it. And over the past couple of years, I've seen a lot of movies where I've heard that they're so bad they're enjoyable, and they never are, like Geostorm or The Meg. So I just didn't really know what to expect from this movie. I walked into this thinking it's not gonna surpass the negative hype that this movie's gotten. Oh boy, was I wrong. And I'm so glad that I was wrong. I should point out right now that I will be spoiling this movie, because there's no way I can talk about this movie and explain why it's gotten the reputation that it has without spoiling it. And even then, if I spoil the movie, it's going to be so outrageous that you still won't believe me when I say it. So let's just first start out with the beginning of the movie. I'm not going to go into full detail until I actually get to spoilers, but I will say that when the movie started out, it was competently made. I didn't think it was anything too special. I mean, it plays out like a neo-noir film. You got good performances from Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway and Djimon Hounsou and even Diane Lane. And it's got some great cinematography. It's well shot. It has a little bit of intrigue with what's going on, why Matthew McConaughey is just so obsessed with this massive fish and what his past was like. So the points of the movie just never seems to be great is honestly with Jason Clarke. I'm not going to say this guy's a curse or anything, but he definitely is not picking some very good roles, which kind of makes me worried about Pet Sematary coming out in a couple months. But the reason I single him out as being bad is because he's not, like, boring or anything or stilted. He's just so cartoonishly over the top. And I don't know what it is, either the way he plays it, the direction, or the writing, but he is just made to be as scummy as possible. Like, he's always carrying a gun around him. He's suspicious about Anne Hathaway sleeping with other men. He slaps her on the ass. Like, it is just so outrageous that it almost becomes laughable in how evil this guy is. So for most of the movie, I was just thinking it was okay. There's nothing about it that really wowed me, but at the same time, I didn't see anything in this movie that really was spectacularly bad or anything that really warranted all the hate it was getting until we get to the 45-minute mark. So this is where I'm going to talk about spoilers right here. If you want to know what my rating for the movie is, and you still want to see it without being spoiled, I will say watch at your own risk. Because what I'm about to talk about is just so outrageous, so unbelievable, that it really makes this movie one of these things that you have to see it to believe it. It's not one of those so bad it's good things. And it's not even like The Snowman, where it's just so incompetently made that it's kind of hilarious. It's more like The Book of Henry, where it just is so bad, so insane that you have to see it to believe it. Talking about it is not going to do this movie justice. So now, if you want to know what happens and don't care for the movie, here's the spoilers. So throughout the entire movie, Matthew McConaughey is having these visions or flashbacks, or he hears voices in his head about this little kid who's playing a fishing game at his computer, and it's revealed that the kid is the son of Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey. And Jason Clarke often brags about how he just abuses this kid and how he's a nerd for staying in his room playing computer games the whole time. And so throughout the movie, we have this guy in a suit that's going around basically stalking Matthew McConaughey or trying to get his attention, and they never really say who this guy is until the halfway point. So this guy finally catches up with Matthew McConaughey, gives him a briefcase with this device that can detect any kind of fish in the ocean, especially that giant-ass tuna that he's trying to find. And at the moment where Matthew McConaughey says, "Who are you?" a bunch of weird things started flowing through my head because, again, I'd heard about how bad this movie was, that I was just making up a bunch of creative shit in my mind, like, what's the twist gonna be? Like, does Matthew McConaughey have psychic powers and he's able to telepathically talk to his kid who has psychic powers because his dad had? Is the guy in a suit an android built by his kid to go to Matthew McConaughey and give him this tracker? No, none of that actually happens, and all of that I just told you is insane already. But what actually happens is that Matthew McConaughey's character is dead, and this island that he's living on is actually this virtual reality world. And this guy in a suit is pretty much the rules. He explains everything that's going on, how this kid pretty much created this whole world. And the very next morning, when Matthew McConaughey goes out to pull a map to look at where the island is in the rest of the world, it's just the island. There are no other continents on the map that he's looking at. It's pretty much when you look at the map for Grand Theft Auto 5 and it's just this island because that's all you have access to, that's what the map looks like when Matthew McConaughey pulls it out the next day. There are little subplots going on with some of the other characters, and because of this twist, because of the fact that we are actually watching a video game from here on out, all those subplots mean nothing because all the other characters, Diane Lane, Djimon Hounsou, Jason Clarke, and Anne Hathaway, are all non-player characters at this point. So the movie continues. You think that a big twist like that would be something you'd see at the end of the movie, the big dun dun dun, but the movie keeps going on, and Matthew McConaughey eventually goes with this plan to kill Jason Clarke. Meanwhile, in the real world, Jason Clarke is actually Anne Hathaway's new husband, but instead of being this super rich prick, he's just a middle-class guy who's just drunk and abusive. We never actually see these two characters in the real world, but the death that happens to Jason Clarke in the video game world is timed to when this little kid just grabs a butcher knife, goes up to Jason Clarke and stabs him off screen. If you guys are still with me, I'm not quite done yet, because the little kid gets arrested, and it's in here where we find out that Matthew McConaughey was actually an Iraqi war veteran, and he was killed during the war. And the kid, despite stabbing his stepfather, he is let go simply because of the fact that Jason Clarke was an abusive stepfather, and the kid had good reason to kill him. That's not how that works, guys. Like, could you imagine if Dr. Loomis gave that same diagnosis to Michael Myers? Like, he'd be out in the streets killing everyone. So, no. And then the movie ends with Matthew McConaughey calling his son. Keep in mind, Matthew McConaughey is in the video game world and his son is in the real world, and the son is talking about how one day they'd like to meet each other, which I don't even know how that works, but the movie ends with the son creating a virtual avatar for himself to go into this island and meet his dad at long last. If all that sounds batshit insane to you, it is. And I swear to God, Galactus, Thor, Unicron, I am not making all this up. If you don't believe me, just go see the movie for yourself. Or if you don't want to see the movie, go to Wikipedia, read the plot synopsis, and you will know that I am not lying to you guys. Hell, go see other reviewers out there. Like, a lot of people from Double Toasted to JTE have reviewed this movie, and they're doing spoilers as well. What they say is what I'm saying. They are not bullshitting. So yeah, I already said that my rating was watch at your own risk, and that's precisely the reason why. It is one of these things where you have to see it to believe it. The way I could possibly describe this twist, now that I've had a lot of time to sit on it, it's like this special look for Aladdin that just came out recently, where everything is just fine. You're actually liking and admiring a lot of things you see, but then it's just ruined by this one little element that derails the entire thing. In the special look for Aladdin, it's Will Smith Genie, and in Serenity, it's the twist that this entire world is in a computer. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. This is really one of those movies where it lived up to everything that I heard when people were telling me that it's so bad you have to see it, and it was miles beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And that's my review for Serenity. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I want to know, what did you guys think of the movie? If you've actually seen it, and if you've not seen it, are you going to see it just to see how insane this movie is? Just to believe it for yourself? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.